Welcome to Jester Brothers Cartoon Travelers, the podcast where my brother and I explore the vast and beautiful worlds of animation for the perfect place to call home. And if you heard that, Lou has already committed a party foul.
Yeah, I already dropped something. And it is a party because today is my birthday. So if you don't hit like on the video, you're a bad person.
That's right. We really got to get those likes for Lou's birthday. And everybody, please shout him out in the comments. Give him good old happy birthday.
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's probably not at the time of releasing this, I just realized, but it is right now. So
yeah, as of the time of recording, it is in fact his birthday. So I'm trying to find like a soundboard instrument to play, but this is all I have.
Wow, I am getting older. That does kind of suck.
I could give you a or that's all I got.
I think the duck quack works the best.
I think so too. Unrelated to the duck, unless you wanted to say, well, Donald Duck is a duck, and he was a character in a later version of the movie that we're talking about today. How's that for a connection?
Hey, transitions, organic.
We are talking about a little movie called Fantasia.
Yes.
Which it's possible that not everybody has seen. We recognize that this is an old 1940 Disney movie that may not be quite as well known as some of at least the major characters that you're aware of.
Is it not? That's a shame.
So that's the thing.
Because if you are listening to this or watching or whatever, and you don't know this, Fantasia is an incredible artistic masterpiece that existed like very early on in the history of Disney. And I'm really excited to talk about it. Sorry to cut you off, because I know Alex got all the Disney information here, everybody, but I'm very excited. This is going to be fun.
No, you're fine. And, you had mentioned, well, it's my birthday. I want to try to pick something that I'm really passionate about, something that'll just be fun to talk about on my birthday. And you happen to pick what I have long said is my favorite movie ever.
Yeah.
Not favorite animated movie, not favorite Disney movie, my favorite movie, period. Yeah. Probably for the first 25 years of my life.
That's right. See, what I really wanted for my birthday was a good conversation.
Yes, and we're going to have it. I'm glad because we did this kind of at the last second and didn't have time to research.
Yes.
I saw Fantasia a month ago. I know a lot of the trivia and the history behind it, so I can actually speak about it without needing to research a whole lot, and I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, I've seen it a bunch of times too. It's very, very prevalent in my mind brain.
Sure, and it's going to be fun because we can also talk a little bit about old animation and gush about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Starting with the fact that Fantasia is the third theatrical release that Disney ever made. The first one was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Then they came out with Pinocchio. And
I actually didn't know that.
Yep, after that came Fantasia. And
wow.
It's interesting because Fantasia was a wild concept compared to the first two movies that really followed a story.
Yeah.
Walt Disney said, I want to make an awesome film that is taking music and putting it behind these amazing animation sequences that my animators build, right? And he'd done it before. And I shouldn't just say he, because the Disney company was made up of all kinds of amazing animators doing amazing things at this time. And they did something called the Silly Symphony series.
Yeah.
And those were a whole bunch of short films that were usually only about 7 minutes long, but they would do exactly that. They would synchronize animation and music in a way that people hadn't exactly seen before. The most famous example being the Skeleton Dance from 1927. A lot of these were really just flip books that you could play music to in a way, you know, if you're thinking about it very, very narrowly.
Oh my gosh, shout out to our channel. We covered the Skeleton Dance a long time ago for Halloween.
We did do that. And Fantasia came out in 1940 as sort of a super silly symphony where it had many long segments of animation and music that went together. So it didn't follow a story. It was totally segmented. And the Walt Disney Company would experiment with doing this in future films, but usually in kind of a different way. It was never this grand opera of a theatrical release that Fantasia ended up being. And a wild trivia fact that even though Fantasia is widely regarded as one of the best films, at least the best animated films of all time, it got like no box office attention at the time. It was actually a flop.
You're kidding.
No, Fantasia did not do well in the theaters. People didn't respond nearly as well as they did to Snow White and Pinocchio with these characters that they wanted to see in a story. It was years later that people acknowledged, wow, this is an artistic masterpiece that everybody needs to see. So
Wow.
it's like a critic favorite. I would even argue it's an audience favorite when people give it the time and the patience,
Yeah.
but not one that is very well was not well viewed at the time. At least it didn't draw
Interesting.
attention.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
guess it's not. It doesn't. It was very artsy and experimental. And a lot of times experimental stuff, even when historically people love, the experimental artists, they just look weird at the time. So
Yeah,
interesting.
I would say if people know the film for anything, it is going to be this is where we were introduced to Sorcerer Mickey.
Yeah.
The design with that
Yep.
sorcerer's hat, the big tall blue one that everybody knows well in the red robe, that
Yes.
came from Fantasia. And so did Chernabog, a dark, dark Disney villain who sort of resembled and was meant to embody Satan himself at the top of Bald Mountain at the conclusion of the film. So with that said, we're kind of going to take an interesting approach where we're going to go segment by segment today and do what we do, talk about whether we would live in these different places. Now, here's a question that I think we need to establish out of the gate, Lou.
Yes.
Is Fantasia one continuous canon in this thought experiment, or are we adding 8 potential places to live?
Um. Do you mean like could you travel from one place to another if you lived there?
Right. Like at the end of this discussion, are we saying, yes, I would move from the Kanto region to the world of Fantasia? Or are we saying, yes, I would move there to the Sorcerer's Apprentice world
So
because they're all isolated on their own?
here's how I'll answer that because we actually have evidence for the answer, and I'm gonna use this evidence to build a somewhat fictionalized idea of what this is, but I think it'll be fun. We do see either before or after the Sorcerer's Apprentice short, Mickey actually run up and tug on the conductor's leg,
That's true.
which means that by that logic, technically, all of these cartoons are actually woven into this reality with the symphony.
I think you're right. And an important point of clarification for those who haven't seen this film is that there is a symphony that sort of kicks off the film, and they show up in between segments to say, hey, we're the ones playing the music for the things that you're about to watch.
Yeah.
So it's pretty meta. I almost view it like Mickey is an actor in this thing, and that the different pieces accompany the music in that way. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. I do think that we have to think about this as one film in one universe if it's going to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you know what I just thought about? I have to go on the side tangent because it just seems so cool.
Sure.
What it reminds me of, if you've never seen it, is if you've ever seen like a movie or a art piece where there's a live orchestra playing the music. You know what I mean?
It's just like that.
Yeah, because you have a conductor that they talk in between whatever the thing is, and they're not in a background, but they're like a foreground to another show going on. And how sick would it be if there was a live action, like a live Fantasia show that you could go see where like the animated portions play, but the symphony and the conductor act out that whole part of the movie?
I think there's a chance that has been done before.
I hope
Don't
so.
quote me. I don't know all my trivia
Yeah,
perfectly, but I know that there is at least like a Disney symphony building in
sure.
California, and there's a part of me that thinks that they
It
have done
had
that, and
to. They had to
I
have.
I would love to see that.
Me too.
And
I would pay money to see that. That would be so cool.
you're right. And it is kind of fun that that is what they're giving us here. It's like, yeah, we've got a symphony that is the
Yeah.
foreground to all of the animation that you're seeing, and it all goes together.
And something that we say on the podcast all the time is something that we consider when choosing these animated worlds is the music and the tone and the emotional quality that stuff like that, in addition to the animation, gives it. And so if we do decide any of these places, we're going to get some damn good classical music, like some of the greatest.
You're right about that. And man, that just made me so excited to start to get into
Right?
this. Are you ready to explore the world?
Let's go. Let's jump. Oh, wait, do the wait, do we have one?
Right. Yeah, we sure do. We sure
Oh,
do.
that's right. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. New sound effect.
Nice.
Well, newish. It's been a couple episodes. All right. Here we are. And through through the music of the orchestra of this symphony, we are weaving our way through the different lands to explore.
Ooh.
And what a lot of people don't remember is that the very first piece is relatively short. It's called, let me make sure that I pronounce this correctly. I think I've got it. Toccata and Fugue in D minor.
Okay.
And it is just rolling hills. It is the embodiment of colors changing, of the color spectrum morphing in front of your very eyes as we go just over these like sound wave looking hills. And that just carries us in. It's like kind of an introduction. So I don't know how well you remember this part, Lou, but I remember it so vividly because we tended to watch Fantasia at night when I was sort of maybe a little on the verge of falling asleep. And this
Yeah.
was so dreamy, the whole movie really. But to
Yeah.
kick it off this way was especially dreamy.
It's a very, very trippy sequence. I actually want to watch this movie again because I think I'd actually appreciate this even more as an adult. Um, it's just so beautiful. It's so colorful. It's so flowy. I can't help but just feel like it looks like a mushroom trip a little bit, and that's praise. I like that.
Well, we'll get to the mushrooms in a second.
Well, that's a
But
whole
for
other.
now-
There's that part too. Yo,
Yes.
I think Walt Disney was into some business. That's my guess.
I don't know. I really.
I've
be
read
honest,
I've
I
read
don't think so.
reports. Don't everybody, this is the internet. Don't believe a word I say, but I have read somewhere that Walt Disney did take mushrooms and it influenced his art. I read it. That doesn't mean it's true. I just read it somewhere.
So I will say I'm a Disney scholar. I feel like that's a fair title to give myself.
Yeah.
And this is not something that I've known, but you're a scholar in other things. So
I'm
maybe
a
there's some
scholar in other
authority.
things, and it is in those things that I did discover that. Because Salvador Dali, well, you know what? I won't go into it.
All right. Sounds Salvador Dali, man. Yeah, we're gonna
Well,
stay
they
away from
hung
that
out.
one. But
Dali and Walt hung out at times.
not only did they hang out, but they did not finish.
It's
but
so
they created.
good. I've seen it. It's so good. And it's also
Yes.
one of the trippiest things you'll ever see. There's a short. You can find it on YouTube. There's a short that Walt Disney and Salvador Dali collaborated on, and it is mind-blowing.
It's called Destino, and they
Yes.
actually dedicated an entire area of a Disney resort or a Disney hotel in Orlando to Destino, this short that Salvador Dali and Walt Disney put together. And it's not as trippy as you would expect. It's kind of like an elegant building, but it's in
really
Coronado.
cool, though.
It is. It's in Coronado Springs, and if you go up to the bar on the top floor, they're just playing Destino on loop while you have your drinks and your food.
Dude, that is sick. I love that. Oh my gosh,
Yep.
that's so cool. Yeah, everybody, if you
Man.
haven't seen that, like, I mean, bookmark it. Like, try to finish the podcast because you watch retention, but it's very worth your time. You should check it out.
I did not expect to be dropping this much Disney trivia off the cuff without any research ahead of this.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that these opportunities are presenting themselves.
Homie doesn't even have notes in front of him. I just want to point that out, as far as I know. I don't think you have. Do you have notes?
No, the only thing that I have is the segments in order so that I can make sure that I get them in the correct order. But I probably could have gotten them without that, to be honest, with how many times I've seen this film.
Incredible.
So Toccata and Fugue in D minor, it's just warm.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that there's a lot to say about it because if we were actually to move here, you're really just going to be in a desert at the end of the day with a lot of hills and you probably can't find water. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to die of dehydration and I'm having hallucinations.
Really?
Which is a bummer.
I think it just looks peaceful.
It would be until you realize that you didn't have water.
Why don't you have water?
There's no water evidence in the film. It's just rolling hills forever.
But that's beautiful. I mean, what if you're not even a human in this thing though? What if you're just like color and you just start becoming one with the hills? What if you are the rolling hills and that's your experience?
That is the only realistic option if you were wanting to pick this place among the other options that you're going to have.
I think that sounds pretty cool.
All right, fair enough. Well, we managed to get a lot out of what is just one very simple segment. I should mention that you do also see some pretty cool things that they do with sound waves through this.
Yeah.
Like you see what it would look like if a guitar were to strum a harp. I think that it may be more part of the symphony segment, but I sort of loop them together in my head.
I mean, there's just so colorful. If this is the one I'm thinking of, it's just like, oh yeah, they've got like sound waves reverberating and mixing with other sounds. It's so cool.
Yeah.
You could be conscious sound dancing in the breeze. No, that sounds wonderful. That's a hot start in my opinion for consideration.
All right, fair enough. Well, it transitions us right into what many people actually know is the Nutcracker Suite, at least in terms of the song. Like, I think that many people know the composition and what it sounds like. It's not displayed how you would see the ballet.
Yes,
So it's portrayed differently. We get fairies dancing to the Nutcracker Suite and the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy.
that's right.
And it's really peaceful and lovely. You see them kind of skating across water, really just airily floating through the air. And it's a good reminder 1940, they were doing these things with animation.
That's
And
incredible.
it really is truly spectacular. And I feel like not enough people nowadays remember how amazing that was.
And this
Back
looks
then, they maybe didn't even realize.
Oh yeah, well I mean clearly based on the box office they didn't realize.
Yeah.
But like this is another one where it's so a lot of these for choosing locations are so purely based on vibes. But like you said, like we've got Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy and the it's just fairies living in nature. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you just get to be beautiful dancing fairies that orchestrate nature. You're putting raindrops on spider webs. You're putting light in flowers. You're helping flowers bloom. You're you know, ice you're water like figure skating on the water ripples. It's like, oh my god. It's and you're literally just creating the beauty of nature. Oh my god. And then they like at the end they like explode into this big color fountain. Like got to admit, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And we not only get the fairies, but we sort of. I love how the animation transitions itself into new creations in this film.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we see are these blossoms that are kind of dancing. And we see mushrooms, like we mentioned, that are very memorable because they sort of run around in a circle and there's the one little mushroom that's sort of a bit of an outcast, and they do so much with the character of these
Wait, isn't that a future?
non-living beings.
Is that the same short?
Yeah, it's all part of the Nutcracker Suite.
Oh, I thought it was later.
It doesn't feel like it is the same, but it is. It's all part of. So they transition from one thing into the next. But yes.
Oh, that makes sense.
hmm And you also get a school of goldfish that are performing, and
Oh, so you could be a dancing little shroom too,
yeah, you could.
just like Oregon
I'm-
Country Fair.
I was gonna try to not let you go there.
I couldn't help it.
I know. And yeah, then you just get like the Waltz of the Flowers, which is sort of I think it brings the fairies back a little bit as the fairies are touching things and creating flowers and other creations, sort of like what you were alluding to. But
So
it's peaceful.
I have never really been faced with the possibility on this show. Okay, maybe I have once, but I don't remember. Where I could literally just be a magical creature of the forest whose sole purpose in life is doing art and flowing with nature every single day. And I'm not gonna lie, that is actually one of the most amazing things that we've talked about possibly being able to do in our on the show so far. Like, actually, unironically, that sounds sick as hell.
You've got a great point. I don't think that we've really touched that. I definitely think there are some anime and some Ghibli movies that maybe could approach that territory that we just haven't covered yet.
Agreed.
We did Spirited Away. I don't think that it would come up in that. And here's a great plug. If all of you are just watching the YouTube video, you have not seen the audio podcast, just know we did do over 20 audio only episodes before we started bringing this to YouTube, and you can still find that by searching through Spotify or any of the other places that you listen.
Or if you become a member and comment somewhere, I became a member and I want these as membership exclusives, then it'll motivate me to put them on YouTube as well.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's what it'll take. Because if you don't want to leave YouTube, I will get those, but I've been very busy with a lot of things lately, so it's been hard for me to maintain all of the YouTube responsibilities.
Right. Just you won't see us. You'll still see it'll be like a blank.
Yeah, it'll be audio. It'll still be audio, but I'll just put them on YouTube.
Right.
Okay, for the
great.
sweet price of one membership or whatever. I don't care.
So, because of how long the Nutcracker Suite is, I sometimes don't realize how early on the next segment comes up. Oh, before I get there, can I just talk about the Nutcracker Suite in general as a piece of music?
Sure.
And it gives me something like really peaceful and nostalgic. And listen, I love Christmas and the holiday season. So I hear it sometimes during that. I also had the opportunity last year through my friends Chris and Kayla to see the ballet of the Nutcracker in Portland. And I thought it was
Cool.
breathtaking to see that level of
Cool.
talent. And it was music that I knew from Fantasia. And I don't know if that's sacrilegious to people who know the piece first from the play, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, I know what you mean.
I really loved it, and the music just creates like a really special sensation for me, something very warm and takes me back to home with the Christmas tree on in the back. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that adds flavor to me in terms of me deciding whether this is somewhere I would live or not.
I think that's totally more than fair. You know, music is a big part of the vibe.
Great. So next we go straight into the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And
Oh, you don't say. I guess it was pretty early, wasn't it?
yeah, in my childhood, I remember Sorcerer's Apprentice coming later, and then I would probably fall asleep around that time,
See,
or
I
like right after it.
I was always starting to fall asleep, but I would want to make it to the dinosaur part, so I always hung in
Me
there.
too. Me
Yeah.
too. I would try, and then maybe like early on into the dinosaur at the very end. If I was lucky, that's where I would drop. It,
Yeah.
it really was a competition, wasn't it?
I would
Because
yeah.
we watched the movie so many times. There were like rare occasions where we would make it all the way to the end,
Yeah.
but it was few and far
Yeah,
between.
true.
We watched it a lot.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
Uh,
dad. I think dad specifically really loved cuz our dad loves classical music. Still
he
very
does.
much. And I think that it was just like a pleasant soothing thing, calms you and I down because it is so dreamlike, you know? So if you have kids, they're just going to sit there like, whoa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you kind of need that as a parent.
Yeah, it's magical in that way. And we would also do a thing where I don't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast before. We would have family movie nights where each of us would alternate getting to pick a VHS. So
Oh
it was a
yeah.
way for Lucas or for Lou and I to decide what we wanted to watch sometimes, but then mom and dad would have the opportunity to where they could show us something that they wanted, and then eventually it would become our favorite. So I thought that was a pretty smart system, a good cycle.
I agree.
And as a result, Fantasia ended up getting picked a lot because I think the whole family enjoyed it.
I
Uh,
agree.
Sorcerer's Apprentice. This is the first one where we can really talk about kind of a running plot because we have Mickey, who
Yep.
is just sort of this humble servant to Yen Sid the Wizard.
Ah,
And
Yensid. I remembered his name. Let's go.
that's right. And for those of you who didn't pick it up, Yen Sid is Disney backwards. So that's where his name comes from.
I feel really dumb for never putting that together.
It's if you don't hear it, you may not know.
Of
Uh,
course it is. Yensid.
and Mickey, he has an opportunity to take Yen Sid's hat when he's gone. And he's like, wow, I could be the sorcerer in this place if I put it on.
Yep.
And he does. Shenanigans ensue. And he ends up giving magic to all of these brooms so that they can do his chores for him and
Yeah.
sweep everything. And it just becomes this lovely, chaotic.
Yeah.
I put lovely and chaotic together because it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just sequence of water splashing and the brooms. And, again, when I think about the animation that it takes to make something like this happen, it's really breathtaking to me.
Oh yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
love the magic brooms. They have so much character. The way that they sort of become the antithesis of what Mickey is expecting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we're here to help, but we're gonna help so much that we drown you with water,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. We'll drown you and help. Yep.
Mhm.
And yeah, and Mickey's doing the fireworks with his fingers while it's all starting to go wrong and like oh my god, it's so beautifully animated. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
It
even
is
if you've never seen Fantasia, you've probably seen this sequence
so
somewhat.
breaking it down by livability again. So theoretically, in this scenario, you could be a great wizard, an apprentice, or a broom that's been brought to life. Just presenting
Well,
it, just laying it
the
down.
it doesn't work out great for the brooms in the end, so I feel like that's not gonna be the top of my list.
No, but I just wanted to throw it out there as a possibility. But being a sorcerer's apprentice and nonetheless a co-apprentice with Mickey Mouse, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, to be an apprentice next to him. Yeah, that's true. I said humble servant, but I guess he is the apprentice of the wizard, and he's
Yeah.
just having to like do these annoying chores. Uh, that wouldn't be so bad. I don't think I would want to be in Yen Sid's spot. He always seems a little bit mean,
He does.
honestly.
He
Like
does.
he's
He's a
jaded
grouchy
from.
old man.
That's right. He's like, I've had enough of this wizard crap and the magic and these ungrateful people who don't respect the ways of the sorcerer.
They
And
could be a good teacher though. Still,
they
you
could be a
learn
great
a lot
teacher.
from them. I guess
I think
technically, if you're good at learning, anything can be a great teacher, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if you're dropping in here, you become a co-apprentice with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
And I think that would be pretty fun.
that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. You get into the shenanigans with him on the whole fireworks thing. That's a good one, man. This is a better contender than I was expecting going into it. I'm not gonna lie.
In general, I've always looked at Fantasia and been like, well, that's one of my favorite movies, but there's no way we can find a way to talk about it on the show.
Yeah.
And I was so wrong.
I
like,
know, right?
This is totally talkable
Yeah,
in terms of figuring out if this is a valid option.
I do think it's fair to say, even though we did see Mickey go into the symphony, we don't see any cartoons go into any other cartoons. So I think it's fair to say that if we choose a cartoon, it's not like we could just hop over to another one. Is that fair?
That's a really, really tough one. I feel like if we're someone like Mickey,
maybe he can because he's the wizard.
All right, are you ready for me to for the biggest stretch you've ever heard?
Yeah, let's do it.
But a stretch that I genuinely believe makes sense.
Let's do some yoga. Hit me with it.
All right. Have you seen, when you visited me at Disney World, did I take you on the show Magic at Magic Kingdom?
Yes, we did see that. That was very cool.
Okay. In Magic, Donald Duck is in a symphony,
yes,
gets a hold of the sorcerer's hat, and proceeds to travel through different Disney animated features with the hat. Well, actually, without the hat, because he basically loses it and is trying to get it back. And we see that he has the ability to bounce between features in a Fantasia setting.
So you think that's why Mickey's allowed to do it?
We see Mickey leave, so yes, yeah. I believe. Well, maybe it's because he has a hat. That's true. I didn't actually think about that, but that's a really good idea.
Or just has magic. I don't know if he has the hat on during his like shadow cameo during the symphony.
Sure, but I would say that if we're considering ourselves a character in the story like a Donald or a Mickey, then we would, in theory, have the ability to bounce between the things that are within the Fantasia verse. Yeah, I think that would be on the table.
But that means that you would have to be one of those characters in order to do it.
I think that's true. I don't think that you could be a fairy in nature and be able to bounce around.
You're right. I accept that. I accept that as part of the equation for this one.
Disney theme park attraction for to establish the rules of this canon. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Now I don't think that you could go from like Fantasia into Magic. I think that those two things exist on their own.
That just explains the mechanism. I agree with you.
Right. It explains the mechanism. I think that we're still under the impression that we could only bounce between things in the 1940 feature of Fantasia.
Yeah, we're not including 2000 either for that matter.
Did I ever tell you that my orchestra that I played in when I lived in Florida almost played Sorcerer's Apprentice as part of a concert?
No, you didn't. That's so cool.
I was so excited. We got the music for it, and we were planning on putting it together. We did many rehearsals, and the string section just couldn't get it together. It didn't sound good, and we didn't want to go up there and embarrass themselves. And I was ready because I had xylophone and the glockenspielen, the instruments that just add that little flair. So yeah,
you're like, I was so ready.
I was ready. I've always wanted to play it, and at least I got to play it. At least I did, but I didn't get to play it in a concert setting, unfortunately. I think it would have been very fun.
Sure.
But based on how things were going, I was sort of on board with us not playing it.
Oh,
just
rough stuff. Rough stuff.
We were good at a lot of things, but I will say the Sorcerer's Apprentice piece, very, very difficult. Like high challenge in terms, especially for like violins and string instruments. Nice. There's a lot of coordination that goes into it, but the piece is beautiful. Again, more great music. That's a point in its favor.
All right.
Next up, we have The Rite of Spring. And do you remember what this one is?
Not by the title.
That's fair. You may not, but you would probably know it by the dinosaur sequence.
I know this one for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I will say that this is probably one that you remember really well. So I'm going to
Oh
give you a
yeah.
chance to explain it.
Well, I mean, I don't remember it that well. I'm pretty sure we see some amount of evolution happen at the beginning, right? Like some
Yep, that's right.
amoeba grows and then turns into a fish. Fish crawls on land. And then towards the end, we see it kind of builds up. There's this like super like almost like Godzilla like music where it's kind of intense. I don't remember. Is the song called Rite of whatever you just
Rite of
said?
Spring.
Rite of Spring.
Mhm.
Okay, Rite of Passage. And
Yeah, I should mention all of the segments are named after the songs. So when
yes.
I say a segment, even if there's dinosaurs in it, if they're using the Rite of Spring, that's the name of the segment.
Yeah. Cool. Um, we see the climax is this like T-Rex. We see all these dinosaurs that just kind of shows what the dinosaur land was like. It actually reminds me even of the aesthetic that they ended up putting the dinosaurs in the train ride in Disneyland.
The Disneyland Railroad does have big sculptures
Yeah.
as part of its tour that emulate the dinosaurs from the Rite of Spring. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intentional. Like there is a connection.
100%. And a bit of a
Nice.
backstory there, if you're ready for some more trivia.
Hit me with it.
Uh,
Yeah.
those dinosaurs are part of what is called the Primeval World Diorama. And
Okay.
that diorama was brought to the World's Fair in the 60s when Disney was advertising a bunch of here's what Disney can do. They had Small World there, they had the Carousel of Progress, and they had this diorama. And eventually it was moved into the Disneyland Railroad to be part of the display that guests could see when they passed by when they went to the various lands. I forget which one it's right next to. It might be Frontierland, but you get
Yeah.
the idea.
Oh, that's so cool. It's one of my favorite parts because I'm a dinosaur kid. I love dinosaurs. So yeah, this short is really sick. The T-Rex, this is T-Rex and Stegosaurus. They get into a big bloody fight at the end, and I'm pretty sure the Stegosaurus dies, and the T-Rex pretty violently like throttles it to death. And
It's rough.
Yeah, and everybody watches it. And then don't all the dinosaurs die at the end of it? Does it go that way?
I think that they sort of, yeah, they say, yep, this is what happened to the dinosaurs. Everybody, they go extinct, and it's just kind of, but it's portrayed a little bit more beautifully. Like, yeah, this is the circle of life.
Yeah. Like this was
just,
evolution. This was the beginning. This was life. Life was beautiful. We're all socializing. We're eating, but we're also killing each other, and then we all die. Nice.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
love that. I love that. I don't
Happy
think it's
birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm 28, a little closer to that death part. But
every year's just another step closer.
Yeah, it's just a countdown. Am I right?
Countdown to extinction. Another name of a Disney attraction, I think, or some kind of a mechanism for an attraction.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, I love the concept philosophically. Not sure if it's a top choice to live in, even though I'd love to be a dinosaur. And I would love to be a dinosaur, but truth be told, I think there are probably better cartoons that we can see that will tackle the possibility of me being a dinosaur in the future. I don't have anything specifically in mind. I'm just sure that there are. This is a pretty honest depiction of life and how it's beautiful but rough, and I love that. But in comparison to being a nature fairy, not quite as interesting as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm with you. Artistically, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
The whole segment, the music, the stuff it portrays. Obviously, we were so excited to see the dinosaurs as a kid.
Yeah.
Just because it's dinosaurs, man. Like, how cool are they?
Yeah.
But it's not livable.
Yes.
Not in terms of all of the other options that we have, unfortunately.
Yes.
So next, we move on to the Pastoral Symphony. And this is totally your Olympus, Pegasus, Greek mythology life that maybe you've always wanted to live. I will say there were some problematic parts of this that were eventually removed by Disney. So the versions that you'll probably see now on Disney Plus, there's still some things that don't hold up great, but the really, really rough stuff was removed years ago.
It was slavery stuff, right?
It was like depicting like sort of slaves of some of these centaurs, just problematically. And it doesn't hold up. I feel like it's safe to say that because they've been canonically removed from the ones that are received, that that is not going to be part of the universe that we're
Nah,
moving in
nah,
today.
I'm source material. I don't pretend history didn't happen. I'm not Disney. Screw that.
Okay,
We own
I'm
it.
fine with that.
I am not about pretending that didn't happen, bro. No, if we are deciding to be centaurs, then we are deciding to have slaves because that is when the time period came out.
So I want to
Or be
say
a
that
slave.
my objection is not like I agree, like it's part of the history, no doubt. I just think that we move into the world as it exists.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like the way that the world exists is with that removed. So, but I'm very much on board if we decide we're going into the source material. But I think that's a rule that we should probably establish going forward if this comes up again.
Well, it doesn't apply to every situation though. Because
Okay.
like
Well,
sometimes stuff is because the thing it's not like Walt Disney changed it. You know what I mean?
right.
That
Definitely
that would
true.
mean something different to me. This is like a corporation business decision, and I don't respect that. Um,
Okay,
but
I see your point. So the original art was the one way, and okay, yeah,
yeah,
I think that
but like
that makes sense
the
to me.
Thief and the Cobbler is an animated film that went through changes post production that I do respect because it was done with artistic intent. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest here, like with that in mind, I'm gonna be out on living here. I don't
Oh,
want to be in a
same. Yeah.
place
No,
that
but
definitely has slavery going on.
that's why it's important to talk about though, because if we just get rid of it, then we just pretend it didn't happen, and that's not a good thing
Definitely.
for
Now, I still
knowledge.
want to talk. I still want to talk through what it looks like
Same.
because the universe itself, when you take that out, they did a lot of pretty things with the animation.
Oh, not to
Uh,
mention they've got the whole like Greek aesthetic, and there's like, there's like, I think they have lots of wine, if I'm not mistaken, in this one.
oh yeah, they've got plenty of wine. It is what it sounds like when you think pastoral symphony. You kind of get your Mount Olympus and the horses riding around in the sky,
Yeah,
and they do a great job of portraying like the little Pegasi,
yeah.
the tiny little baby versions of them.
I think they got little
Um,
cupids and stuff too,
yeah,
if I remember correctly.
you also have Zeus, who is like
Oh
smiting
yeah.
everybody at the end, and yeah, sort of just like this big boisterous
You know,
portrayal.
at first when I thought about it, I'm like, oh, it looks peaceful and nice, and there's like innocence in nature and stuff like that. But the more that I think about it, it's like, well, we also have like, the elephant in the room of slavery, and then we also have an angry god. This actually just looks like a bad Christian time. I don't think I want to be into this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the music's great. I love mythology, but I think that we should table the discussion on Greek mythology livability for
Yeah,
Hercules.
I
I think
agree.
that's gonna be a better version of it that has a lot more depth to it, a lot more
I agree.
content in general, and yeah, I think that's probably all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I don't think I have too much more. It is very pretty. The nature that they do, the way they do water, and like the scene that they create with like it feeling just simple and nice before it gets
Yeah,
all chaotic. I like that.
I will
Also,
say,
wine is okay. I'm not really much of an alcohol guy, but
yeah,
you know,
growing up, I will say that this was kind of the sequence that bored me the most, if I'm
same,
being totally honest.
same.
Like it didn't capture my attention quite as much as
Well,
the others, just because I didn't feel like the characters were as eye-popping.
there's an element of like lovey-doveyness going on too that as a kid I didn't care about, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's something that I want to skip. I'd be interested to see how I felt about it now. I want to see the edited version because I've never seen it before. I've only seen the one that we grew up with.
Sure.
So I
Yeah,
wonder what the changes are.
there's still some stuff. I would say that it's not like completely like
They're not
rid of
they're
all
not
of the
free.
problematic stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I mean that's a good thing, right? Because
Well,
it's important for history. We can't just pretend that we can't rewrite history just because we didn't like how it used to be. It's because
yeah,
then
we
we
need to
can't learn from it.
acknowledge that it's there. No, I agree with you.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, all right. Next up, we have Dance of the Hours. This is one of my favorite segments.
Ooh.
And people may know it as the hippo and the alligator dancing. Maybe the first
Oh
thing that you
yeah.
think about. I will go ahead and give you the names also. We have Hyacinth Hippo
Oh my god.
and we have Ben Alligator that are the two main characters.
Ben
But
Alligator.
there are many other hippos and alligators that are part of it. There's also ostriches. And these animals are all just kind of engaging in this ballet.
This one's really one of your favorites? I was actually kind of bored by this one too as a kid.
Really, I loved this. I was so fascinated by the alligators because they were kind of like these dark Phantom of the Opera creatures that
True.
sort of hung in the background, and they had their capes over their eyes, and they're like, "Hey, we're here, we're lurking, and we are going to dance." And
It's
it
true.
was pretty dramatic and pretty fun, and
Yeah.
yeah, it did. I liked the characters, and I usually, as a kid, I was so drawn to like the very vivid characters such as this
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
all kinds of
You
animated
know,
movies. I
this
love the cartooniness.
this does almost get Looney Tunes. Like almost. You know what I mean? Like it's almost got like
Yeah.
that silly like it maintains its Disney composure, but if there was one pie gag, I swear to God it would just be a Looney Tunes cartoon.
It wouldn't take much. You're right. They are one pie away.
Yeah, it's very there's one banana peel slipping on the ground, I swear. You know what I
It
mean?
is, yeah. It's funny to me because the alligators, they kind of are lurking, and they kind of are bad guys, and I think that they do have some nefarious intentions.
Yeah.
But there's still kind of this push and pull between dark and light that
Yeah.
they display through. Oh, we're
You
still
know,
dancing together. Make no mistake.
I'm glad you said Phantom of the Opera because I actually just watched the old black and white Phantom of the Opera, not the original, but the
Mm.
the following one that came out. Not the silent film one, but the one that came after it, with Lon Chaney or Lon Chaney Jr. No, not him. Shoot. Maybe it is him. I don't remember. Anyway,
Lon Chaney Jr. Senior.
sure. Junior scene. There is a element of like comedy in that movie, and I actually think that the way that the Phantom of the Opera functions does remind me of that short. So I like that comparison. I still don't know if I'd live here though, just because like dancing animals, very cool. I love to dance. I love being in a world of dancing, but I can be a dancing mushroom that seems to not have any obvious predators in the near, you know?
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned this. So I didn't really talk about what the actual geography is like in this dance sequence. So what we sort of see is what I think of being as, think about like a tall tower that's basically like a bird bath, but at the top of the bird bath, like there's this dome and then there's grass on top of it. So
Oh
it's more like a
yeah.
bowl than a bath. And it's basically if you take a coliseum or a dome of some kind
Yeah.
and you like flip it upside down and then put grass on it. And then you sort of have all of this grass and some gray cement paths that sort of go down. Um, how am I doing in terms
I
of how you think about it?
it looks different the way you described it than in my head, but I like it. It looks cool.
Well, how would you describe it? Because there are like kind of these Roman, not Roman Colosseum, but
Yeah, no,
you know
it's got
those
the columns, the like marble
the columns.
columns.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about. So it's kind of got marble columns through just this very blank grass path. I think that there's kind of like some
Yeah.
pools of water in between. It's almost what you would expect to see in front of like a mansion in my
Yeah.
head.
I'm not surprised to see all these people performing there. It's got a very interesting aesthetic. You're right. I'd say it looks like Greece almost. You know?
Yeah, it looks Grecian. That's I maybe could have just said it that way and it would have been easier to wrap your head around.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Uh
the mowed grass, the columns in the background. It's all very flat. There's not a lot of like
mowed grass.
trees.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for picking up and like finishing some of the thoughts I was trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's also nighttime. And I think that that sort of helps paint the picture of what the aesthetic is like. I'm sure it wouldn't always be night, but it that's how I think about it when I think, "Oh, is this place livable?" And at the end of the day, I guess if this is the only area you have access to in this area, there's really not much going on. It's just ostriches, alligators, and hippos in this one very confined space where a lot of dancing is happening.
Yeah. And I'll bet
All
a lot
right.
of people were awoken to their hippo fantasies that day.
Yeah, I bet they were. Next up is the pinnacle of Fantasia in my mind. We do have the Night at Bald Mountain segment that I mentioned earlier with Chernabog. Really the devil And I've talked to a lot of kids who were raised in households that we weren't, that really were terrified by Chernobog because
Oh,
of the devil association.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it is. And to be fair, he's very scary. He's large and daunting, and
Oh,
he's
dude.
playing with darkness.
One of the best depictions of just an evil devil character that I've ever seen. Like he's huge. He's literally is like the size of the mountain. He comes out of this like volcano and starts summoning spirits like souls of the dead and starts casting this like play with them. And there's like fire. It's one of my I watch it every Halloween. I don't watch all of Fantasia, but I watch that short every Halloween. It is just so gothic and creepy. But the thing is, at the end, it's just like the symbol of yin and yang and like the flow of the tides because the sun comes out at the end again.
Yin Sid and Yang. Yin Sid and Yang.
Chat, commenters, we're not allowing this one, right? That was bad.
Allow it.
Oh my god. All right.
Permission granted. Sorry to cut off your thought.
It's so beautiful because the light comes in and Chernobog has to go back into his mountain and all the souls come screaming back and you know, they all cower. And then the light comes with all of the people walking through with their lanterns in the early morning dusk or dawn. And it's beautiful. I really, really love it. It's probably one of my favorite things in animation I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I should mention that the segment changes from the piece Night at Bald Mountain to Ave Maria as the people that you just talked about sort of trail off into their light. And you're right, the dichotomy is amazing.
Yeah.
The way that they go from one thing to the other. Underrated is the music for Night at Bald Mountain. We always think about Chernobog, but
Yes.
the way that it fosters this environment for him to be evil is pretty stunning.
Yeah, the darkness just slowly grows and yeah, no, it's truly incredible. It's so good that I'd almost actually consider living in it, even though it's like the devil and like casting demons and stuff. Because like I guess it's just because it's so part of how I conceptualize Halloween. It's like one of those early imprinted images of like what cool gothic spirits can look like. Because the way that they make these spirits look in the sky is just so cool and otherworldly. And like, I don't know, the fire, the there's something so cool about it. I'm evil, everyone. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say, I love that for you. That's an insane take. I am not moving to Night at Bald Mountain with the devil himself.
Whoa! I mean, you don't know what the perks are.
There's other devil depictions in media that I think that I would jump to first, other than the one that is literally just like
there are politicians more evil than that guy.
Hold on. He's feasting on tortured souls. Like these colorful demons.
I think stand by my statement.
Oh my god! All right, you're allowed to, and I love that for you. Again.
What if some of the souls what if some of those souls get a kick out of it? You know, like it's a kink. Like, oh yeah, devil daddy.
Right, no. I'm shaming this. I'm shutting this right down.
Wow, Satanism isn't understood. It's really just peace under different clothing again, just like most religions try to be.
I mean, I'm not going to try to like be ticky-tack about which religions are peaceful and not, but I am going to say
none of them are and all of them can be. That's my answer.
Fair. Chernobog is considered one of the great Disney villains despite only being on screen for this 11-minute segment. People still remember it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there was some concept art that got teased at some point for Disney. I think there's a non-zero chance that in the next 10 years, y'all see some kind of a Night at Bald Mountain, Chernobog influenced attraction at Disney.
Oh my god, I would love that.
I don't want to like get anybody's hopes up because Disney's been doing a great job of that on their own with teasing concept art that they're not delivering on.
Great.
But it was really shared at a D23 Disney fan event.
I just got to say, if there is a Night on Bald Mountain like roller coaster, like how there's Big Thunder Mountain and Space Mountain, Night on Bald Mountain, bro, that would be the sick.
I know,
God, but it's not modern, it's not popular enough. We can't do it for that stupid. It would be so sick. Bring Twilight Zone Tower of Terror back. Twilight Zone's great. I'm sorry, my rant's over.
Thanks. So yeah, I think that Chernobog's amazing, but listen, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. No, I am not going to live here. I'm not saying that I'm jumping to the Ave Maria part of it because I really do see these two places as connected.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
think it's nighttime you got the devil and then daytime you sort of like move into peace or whatever.
Yeah.
Um
I don't know. I don't think of it as like perfect evil either. I think of it as just like the changing of tide.
yeah. I think that there's some parallels to that and also the dinosaur segment, the Rite
Then
of Spring.
again, I don't think evil's really real. I think it's just all misconception and misunderstanding and terrible
Yeah.
circumstance.
Yeah, we can talk about the sociology of evil another time. That'd be interesting.
That would be
Uh,
really. I actually really want to talk to you about that another time.
yeah. So, all right, we've talked through the segments. That's it.
That's it. Holy. All
Uh,
right.
So I think
Wow.
that the first question has to be,
Would we live anywhere in Fantasia?
yeah, would we live anywhere?
Yes.
And I think so.
Easy. Right? This
Yeah,
is
I mean, I think
yeah.
I would be willing to be an apprentice to Yen Sid.
Yeah. Ooh,
Uh,
okay, okay.
I think I would be willing to. Ah, boy, the nature fairy is past my comfort zone, even though you dream of that.
Really? Bro,
But
guys,
I think
guys,
I would. The
I
answer
was
is, yes, I would, but I don't know if I would prioritize. I'm trying to pick between things. The answer is, yeah, I would do it, but I'm not sure if it's going to be my number one choice.
okay, like out of these,
Out of these to start, yeah.
you think the Sorcerer's Apprentice is a great one. It really
I
is.
mean, I feel like then I get to be alongside Mickey Mouse on one of my favorite short films ever, learning magic, and who knows what other possibilities. I've seen Mickey travel to all kinds of places. Maybe I could join him. Maybe there's a world beyond that I'm not even able to canonically
Oh my
prove is
God.
there yet.
Guys, let us know in the comments if you want us to talk about Kingdom Hearts, if you're enjoying this conversation, because we talked about veering into video games just a little bit. And I think just this is making me want to springboard into something like that. But
Sure.
okay, I give that to you. I will say that I think the fairies are the first choice for me. Now, everybody, I just spent the last weekend at a hippie festival called the Oregon Country Fair, and I was spinning fire with a bunch of my friends with minimal clothing on, and I was just being a little forest fairy for 3 whole days, and it was absolutely wonderful. So maybe there's a little recency bias in me wanting to choose this, but I don't care. It's my birthday, and I want to be a nature fairy today. So,
all right. So you've been in Kanto for what?
a week.
One episode.
Yeah, one episode.
2 weeks.
I'm
Depending
out.
on when we released it.
I'm out. I want to be a nature fairy. I was never given this opportunity. I could have been Celebi, to be fair. But the thing is, this nature fairy vibe, it's not just being a nature fairy. The vibe of how they do the music and the dancing, and they all seem to have their own unique role. Like there's some that, put the water droplets on the webs, and some that are responsible for flowers blooming. It's like, wow, I could be part of the integral function of nature in some of the most beautiful and life-affirming way possible. Like, how could I say no to that? That's all I want in life.
All right, fair enough. So you're moving from the Kanto region of Pokemon. If you remember, I had moved to the Inside Out Mind because we were going to be able to do it together. And
That's
then immediately you were like, I'm jumping to Pokemon. You're jumping again.
This is how I am, everybody. I'm probably going to be the most likely to move constantly in the show because I am just, I love new experiences. That's just who I am.
I feel like we move at the same time more often than I thought we would when this show started.
Yeah.
Like, I thought
true.
it would be a lot like, I decide to leave and you don't. And I think at least 50% of the time that we've decided to move, we've moved at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of it is because our conversation, we end up talking each other into or out of whatever just we decide on.
I think you're right. We hype each other up and we're like, wow, actually, that would be really
sound
cool.
really sick. Yeah, that's true.
I think
we always end up doing
right.
different stuff, though.
I was always temporarily moving back to the Pokemon world in the Kanto region because eventually I think we're going to talk about what is my favorite area of Pokemon.
Yeah.
So assuming that we revisit that down the road, I feel like I'm happy to be moving around and trying out some new things until we get to that point. So yeah, hell yeah, I want to be a buddy to Mickey and a co-sorcerer's apprentice.
Let's go.
A magical part of the Disney world. How does that not jive with me? It's like both of these fit our brands so well.
You can come visit me too. You could come visit me in the Flower Kingdom.
You're right. I could just hop on over because I would have that power based on what we established.
You're going to walk in there and I'm going to be like coming out of the morning dew of a rose petal and be like, good morning, Alec. Oh, it's so lovely here. I'm going to make rain happen. I'm going to make the flowers wet.
I'm going to be like, all right, I've stayed long enough.
All right, I
I'm
don't
glad
know.
you're having fun.
I don't know why I keep checking in on you, man. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Like, glad to see that you're alive, that you haven't gotten into anything that you shouldn't.
You should meet these dancing mushrooms I met the other day.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, sure. I'm sure that there are dancing mushrooms, Lou. Oh, man.
Hey, yo,
All
Yen
right.
Sid got any more of that wizard juice?
Um, yeah, I think that you've had enough. All right. This has gone on far enough, and I'm not. This is the bit's over. The episode has gone on far enough.
Happy birthday, me! Like and subscribe to the channel. Leave 5-star reviews on wherever you're watching podcasts, and wish me a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lou. Thank you all for letting us talk about one of our favorite movies. This was hella fun.
Yes.
We're, I guess, going to talk to y'all next time. Who knows what it'll be about.
Yes. And as always, leave comments about what we should cover and become a member to support my life. That'd be a good birthday present. Peace, everybody.
Bye.